Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, so today we're exploring a brand new neighborhood, but here's the thing. We're seeing it all through the eyes of someone new to the area.
Oh, cool. Someone local.
Not exactly. We're joining Yasmin, who's not only exploring this place for the first time, but she's also navigating it all in English, which she's still learning.
Wow. That's like the double dose of newness. Talk about a challenge.
Right, but also think about the amazing opportunity to see things with fresh eyes.
I see what you mean. It's like experiencing a familiar place for the first time all over again.
Exactly. And we have all of Yasmin's notes and observations to guide us. And let me tell you, this neighborhood sounds like it's straight out of a feel-good movie.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of place are we talking about?
Well, you've got that classic charming bakery, a lively park. Oh, and a fruit stand bursting with color.
Sounds lovely. And I bet there's a cozy corner cafe, right?
Yeah.
Every great neighborhood has one.
Of course. It's called Bean Corner Cafe. And actually, Yasmin's journey to get there, it's a big part of what we'll be unpacking today.
Oh, there's a story there.
Definitely. There are a few twists and turns, a few moments that'll make you smile.
Okay, you've got to give me a little teaser.
Okay, well, how about this? Yasmin tries a sample strawberry at the food stand, and they were so good she ended up buying a whole box.
Wow, they must have been some seriously amazing strawberries.
Right? And guess how much they were?
I don't know. $5.
$5.
That's a steal. Okay. You're right. These little details, they really pull you in.
Totally. So let's dive in. Picture this. Yasmin steps out of her apartment, and right away, we get this incredible glimpse into her thoughts as she takes in the sights and sounds.
Mm.
You can practically feel that newcomer sense of wonder.
Absolutely. Like
Right.
her senses are on high alert, soaking up every detail. Makes you wonder if we all paid attention like that. What would we notice about our own familiar surroundings? It's so true. Now, first things first. Yasmin needs to find her way to that cafe. She spots an elderly woman and approaches her with a question. And this is where it gets interesting. Yasmin uses simple, polite English. Excuse me, ma'am. Good morning. Is there a good cafe nearby? Nothing fancy, but you know what? It works.
And not only does it work, the woman's response is just so heartwarming. You can practically hear the smile in her voice. Good morning, dear. Bean Corner Cafe. Oh, you can't miss it. Just down this street, 2 blocks, then turn left.
It makes you think. Imagine arriving in a new place, and that's the first interaction you have. It sets the tone for the whole experience, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's like that small act of kindness instantly makes Yasmin feel welcome and safe. It really makes me think about how we all have the power to create that feeling for others, just with a simple hello and a smile.
That's such a powerful point. Okay, so on Yasmin's journey, next up is the fruit stand. And honestly, just reading about it makes my mouth water. Think vibrant oranges, shiny apples, and those irresistible strawberries. You know, it's fascinating to me. It's not just that we're told about the fruit. We experience it through Yasmin's senses. It's like we're right there with her taking in the vibrant colors and those delicious smells.
And there's this great little moment where she tries a strawberry sample before buying a whole box.
I love that detail. It's so real.
I know, right? It's such a real-world example of using English to get something you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about grammar rules in a textbook. It's about navigating everyday life.
Exactly. It highlights how even simple transactions can be empowering when you're learning a new language. It makes me wonder, do you think she would have felt as confident buying those strawberries if she hadn't practiced her English with the elderly woman first?
That's a good question. Maybe that first successful interaction gave her a little boost. It's amazing how these seemingly small moments can build on each other. But you know what? Speaking of unexpected moments, remember how I mentioned a little detour? Well, here's where things get a bit interesting. Yasmin gets a little lost.
Oh no. Happens to the best of us, right?
Of course. And it's actually a perfect example of how even when you're trying your best to follow directions, sometimes you still end up taking a wrong turn.
Yeah.
And what's really important is how you handle that moment, whether it's getting lost in a new city or facing any other unexpected challenge in life.
So true. So what does Yasmin do?
Well, realizing she's off course, she spots a young man and decides to ask for help again. Now, I want you to notice how her language is even more direct this time. Excuse me, can I ask for directions? She's becoming more and more comfortable speaking English, even in a tricky situation.
Definitely a growing confidence there. She's not letting a little mishap discourage her.
Exactly. And just like the elderly woman, the young man is incredibly helpful. He points her in the right direction and gets her back on track.
It really does show the power of clear communication, but also the kindness of strangers. It can make all the difference in a new environment.
What really struck me about these two interactions, they highlight something crucial about Yasmin's experience. She's not just getting directions or buying strawberries. She's actively shaping her perception of this new neighborhood, one conversation at a time.
You're so right. With each encounter, she's building this sense of belonging and reassurance. Think about it. If those interactions had been negative or dismissive, her entire outlook on the neighborhood might be completely different.
Wow, you just blew my mind. That's such a good point. It really underscores how interconnected everything is, especially when you're in a new place. Okay, so finally, after that little detour, Yasmin arrives at Bean Corner Cafe. And once again, her notes paint a vivid picture. We're talking about the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the cozy ambiance. We can practically smell it ourselves, can't we?
It's almost like a sensory reward for her perseverance.
Oh,
And it makes you wonder, what would Yasmin have ordered? I'm a latte person, but I have a feeling she might have gone for a cappuccino, something a bit bolder.
maybe. And on that note, let's pause here for a moment. We've followed Yasmin from her apartment through those helpful encounters right to the doorstep of the cafe. But the real question is, what happens next? We'll dive into that and a few other intriguing details from Yasmin's notes in just a bit.
It's like we've arrived at the start of a new chapter in Yasmin's neighborhood adventure.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of chapters, let's revisit a few key moments we touched on earlier, shall we? They might seem like simple interactions on the surface, but I think they hold some pretty insightful lessons about language learning and cultural immersion, and maybe even just life in general.
I'm all for uncovering those hidden gems of wisdom.
Okay, so first up, that heartwarming encounter with the elderly woman. Keep coming back to it because for me, it highlights how a seemingly small gesture can have a huge ripple effect.
It's a beautiful example of how basic courtesy and genuine kindness can create an instant sense of connection, especially for someone navigating a new environment.
Mm.
Imagine if that woman had been dismissive or impatient. It could have easily colored Yasmin's whole perception of the neighborhood.
Right. It shows that we all have the power to be ambassadors for our communities, whether we realize it or not. Okay, next. Those tempting strawberries at the fruit stand. I'm not sure about you, but the description in Yasmin's notes had me craving a fruit salad all day.
It's amazing how a simple sensory detail can transport us right into the scene. But what I find fascinating is that it wasn't just about the delicious fruit. It was an opportunity for Yasmin to put her English skills into action.
And to succeed. It reinforces that language learning isn't just about memorizing vocabulary or grammar rules. It's about applying what you've learned in real-world situations and gaining confidence through those successes.
Absolutely. It's like leveling up in a language learning game. Each successful interaction boosts your confidence and encourages you to take on new challenges.
And speaking of challenges, let's not forget that little detour Yasmin took on her way to the cafe. It would be easy to just brush it off as a funny mishap.
Yeah.
But I think there's more to it than that.
It's a reminder that even with the best intentions and clear directions, we can still stumble. What matters is how we react to those setbacks. Do we let them discourage us, or do we use them as learning experiences?
Yasmin definitely chose the latter. Instead of panicking, she confidently asked for help. And once again, she encountered kindness from a stranger. It really underscores the role community plays in making a new place feel like home.
It makes me think about how those small acts of assistance, directions, given questions answered patiently, can accumulate to build a sense of belonging. Imagine if those encounters had been negative or dismissive. It could easily shake Yasmin's confidence.
Okay, so we've covered those key moments. But I can't help but wonder, how do you think this whole experience, from the helpful interactions to the sensory details, how do you think it might have shaped Yasmin's overall impression of the neighborhood?
That's a fantastic question. I think it's safe to say she's forming a positive association with this new place. The kindness she's encountered, the vibrant sights and smells she's experienced, it all contributes to a sense of warmth and welcome. It paints a very different picture than if she had only encountered indifference or hostility.
It really makes you appreciate the power of first impressions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Those initial encounters can have a lasting impact on how we perceive a place and whether we feel comfortable and connected there.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just feeling comfortable. It can influence our willingness to explore further, to engage with the community, and to truly make a new place our own.
And now, with that foundation of positive experiences, Yasmin has reached Bean Corner Cafe. I can only imagine the sense of relief and accomplishment she must have felt stepping into that cozy space, especially after that unexpected detour. But you know what really intrigues me is what happens next. What does Yasmin do once she's inside the cafe? Does she simply enjoy her coffee and soak in the atmosphere? Or does she use this opportunity to take another step in her neighborhood adventure? We'll dive into that and maybe even try to decode her coffee order in just a moment. All right, so last we left Yasmin, she was right at the entrance of Bean Corner Cafe, that aroma of freshly brewed coffee practically wafting through her notes. It's like a punctuation mark after that little detour, a moment of calm before the next chapter unfolds.
You know, cafes, especially in new neighborhoods, they're more than just places to grab a drink, right?
Right. What do you think they represent?
I think they're like social hubs, little microcosms of the community. You can observe so much just by sitting there sipping your coffee, the regulars, the conversations, the ebb and flow of the day. It all paints a picture of the neighborhood's character.
And for someone like Yasmin, who's still getting to know this place, it's a gold mine of information, a chance to really feel the pulse of her new surroundings.
Yeah, it's
It's-
like an unofficial welcome center. And it
Yeah.
makes me wonder, what did Yasmin do once she stepped inside? Did she grab her coffee and go? Or did she linger, observe, maybe even strike up a conversation?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Unfortunately, her notes are a bit vague on that point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she mentions ordering cappuccino, good choice, by the way, and finding a cozy spot by the window. But after that, the details are a bit impressionistic. She talks about the sunlight streaming through the window, the gentle chatter of conversations, the clinking of cups. It's almost like she's letting the atmosphere wash over her, absorbing the ambiance, rather than focusing on specific events.
That in itself is a fascinating detail, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it suggests that she's becoming more comfortable simply existing in this new space, allowing herself to soak it all in without feeling pressured to constantly engage or achieve something specific. It's a subtle shift from those initial interactions, where she was actively seeking directions or making a purchase.
It's like she's transitioning from doing to being. She's no longer just navigating the neighborhood. She's starting to inhabit it, to find her place within it. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real significance of the cafe. It's not just a place to get a caffeine fix. It's a space where she can simply be present, observe, and let those impressions seep in.
Right, and in that sense, it becomes a perfect metaphor for the larger experience of settling into a new place.
Mhm.
You know, it's about finding those moments of quiet observation, of letting the rhythms of the community wash over you, of gradually becoming part of the tapestry. It's not always about grand gestures or dramatic events. Sometimes it's about those subtle shifts in perception, that gradual easing into a sense of belonging.
That's beautifully put. I think that's the perfect note to end on. We followed Yasmin on this incredible journey. From those first tentative steps out of her apartment to that quiet moment of reflection in the cafe, we've seen her navigate challenges, embrace unexpected detours, and ultimately start to weave herself into the fabric of her new neighborhood.
And in doing so, she's shown us that even the most ordinary experiences, asking for directions, buying strawberries, savoring a cappuccino, can hold extraordinary meaning when viewed through the lens of cultural immersion and personal growth.
So as you go about your day, we encourage you to channel a bit of Yasmin's spirit. Embrace those small moments of connection. Pay attention to the sensory details that make each place unique. And remember that sometimes the most profound discoveries happen when we simply allow ourselves to be present in the moment. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.